want to share with you about the power of improv. I tell you what, there's almost nothing in my life that I'm as excited about as sharing improv, because for me, my whole life, it has been such a tool. And I was sharing with Dane before we hopped on the call. I've been playing make-believe my whole life, and probably you have too. And so, I like to say we are all improvisers at the end of the day. I mean, I guarantee if you would think about any day that you've had in the last few weeks, there's a lot that's unscripted in our worlds. And so it's really important for us to remember we don't, number one, have as much control as we think we do, and how to really lean in to the flow of play and of radical acceptance when you don't know everything that's going to happen. How many times, and just in the chat, I would love to see how many times in your day do you end the day and say, well, nothing went as planned? I'm going to go ahead, and as you guys are answering that question, and say probably a lot, probably a lot. And there's some kind of, yes, Gregory, every day, most days, every day, Rowena, yes. So yeah, okay, Chelsea, I hear you. So yeah, and the thing is, we have this idea that tomorrow we may have more control, and that we didn't do something right if we lost control of our day. And so I would love for you to just release the idea of control altogether and just dive in with me as we look at a world of improvisation and what it can do for you. So here, as you can see on the screen, these are just a few things that really improv, I feel, is really helpful for in your day-to-day life, no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're at work or whether you're at home. These are the tools that are really going to serve you. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but what you're going to get out of today, and what I'd love for you to be listening for as we go through this presentation. And by the way, please, if you have any kind of shares that you would like to put in the chat, or even questions, I'm watching it. So I'm really here for this to be collaborative today. I am a queen of collaboration. So today, what we're going to be focusing on, and what you're going to get out of this, and what I would love, again, for you to be listening for, is anything that really opens you up and makes you feel curious. Feel into your body for what feels like something that resonates with you, or feels like you can take with you around this conversation. So first of all, improv helps us communicate more effectively. Again, I'll go through this deeper, but today you're going to learn how to communicate more effectively. And just the way you think about communication altogether will shift after today's conversation. Listening more attentively. And again, we'll get into this, but for you, what I'd like you to think about is not just listening to hear, but making a game of understanding, listening to really see someone. When you think about the times in your life you've been most frustrated, probably you weren't feeling very seen. So how can that's the thing you can control. What can I control as we're going through this conversation? What can I control? What can't I control? And so we'll be learning a little bit more about both listening and communication. This will help you be more adaptable in your everyday life. I don't know if you've ever seen, I saw this in my dentist's office when I was a very little girl, and it said, it's better to bend than break. And it was a branch that was bent really far. And I loved it so much. I was like, wow, that's really deep. It was one of those success posters, but I loved that, because at the end of the day, adaptability, being able to flex, is really important, because if you don't have that flexibility, you have rigidity and you can snap, which I don't know about you, but I've been in places before where I felt like I could snap. Probably in some of the environments that you're in too. I mean, you are experiencing times of stress and overwhelm and having to be like very quick on your feet. So just remembering that you have that ability to bend and to be adaptable. So be listening for those types of themes too. And then again, if you have questions around it, let me know. Being more present in the moment. How often, I would love to hear from you in the chat. How often do you feel trapped in loops in your head? maybe whether, again, this is at home or in your everyday work life, how often do you feel like you're trapped in loops, stuck in your head, and not really fully present in your present moment? And I'm guessing if you're anything like my clients, they experience that. And so today we're going to be talking about becoming, yes, Rowena, thank you for chiming in a lot of the time. So how can we get you more present in your everyday life? Because also at the end of the day, you are here to serve a purpose at work, but you are a human being with a purpose on this planet. And it's to be alive. It's to experience your life. It's to connect with other people and to create beautiful scenes, as we'll be talking about here in just a moment. And Gregory, thank you. Every time I drive anywhere, I can't remember how I got where I was going. Okay, I wanted to say that out loud because we've all done that. How did I get here? Have I been on autopilot? So we'll be talking about that in terms of what that would mean on stage for improv comedy. And so I thank you for sharing that. But how do you really be more present in the moment so that you can remember it? You know, you can really be like, I was there for my day. I was there for my life. And I experienced joy in my day. I experienced collaboration. I saw someone else. I was seen by someone else. I felt understood. I felt valued, you know? So again, thinking about what you can control and how you can show up and what can that look like for you? How can you uncage your mind and take the shackles off your heart to just really show up and be vulnerable and be open? And so that's something else that we'll be talking about today. And then, of course, building inspired solutions. In improv, building inspired solutions rarely comes from a place of fear. It rarely comes from a place of non-collaboration. And so today we'll be talking about how to lead with love and lead with that energy of connection and problem solving and looking at everything in your day as not, you're not having a monologue on stage by yourself. You're on a team and you're on a stage together. And it's up to all of you to create an inspired solution. So of course, we'll talk about how this relates to you as a CNA, but on stage for us, it would mean, how do we create something that's interesting for the audience in this shared experience that we're having on this planet? How wild is that? We're all here together, even today. So the next piece I'd like to chat with you about is how to make more confident choices. And I don't know about you, and thanks for Anna for chiming in too. I don't know about you, but you know, that confidence at the end of the day in how you show up really does start with first being present. And sometimes when we get lost in our own minds, we respond to situations from a place that's not centered within us and feel like we're not showing up in ways that are in alignment with who we are as people. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that would look like for you. So we'll get into that today too. And then of course, how to better navigate team dynamics and what that looks like on the stage, which is wild, but no less wild than what you experience in your everyday life. The last thing I want you to remember is to be silly. You know, we are adults and we have real jobs and they're important. You know, we have real important work we're doing. Also, though, that can bring a lot of tension. I don't know about you, but if you just need to lower your shoulders for a moment, take a breath, and just be, yeah, okay, Rowena, we need to party. She says I'm silly every day. Good. That serves you. That will serve you so much. Having a little bit of levity in your life and just asking yourself in everyday life, how can I create a more light environment of this? What is serious about this? What is important to be focused on? Also, where can I relax a little bit? So we'll be talking about that today too. And so what I'd like to do is now get into what it looks like to be an improviser. Does anybody here know about improv? I'd love to see again here in the chat, who all is familiar with improv or has seen improv? I'm assuming probably everyone has seen. Okay, Chelsea, yeah, you've seen. All right. And so Okay, Sherry, yay. Okay, so we have some people who are aware of improv. So improv is all made up on the spot. It's in a theater. For those of you who don't know, you go to a theater, you have players on the stage. They have not rehearsed anything that you are going to see. It's all about scenes that are made up completely on the spot based on audience suggestions. So you as an audience member contributes in the way of giving this suggestion, but also there's this shared energy too, and feeling into listening to the audience and reading that energy, and there's sort of a fluid flow of us engaging together in a way that creates as well. So in improv, it's all made up on the spot. And so when you think about being on stage and knowing that as soon as the lights go up, you as an improviser walk out. All you have is from the audience a suggestion. A suggestion could be as something as simple as bird. And you have to create a scene that is interesting. That's the goal. Create a scene that is interesting, hopefully funny, as it relates to bird, whatever that means to you. Here's the trick though. You're doing it on stage with other people and you haven't talked about it. So you're sort of having to, yes, you have to be creative at work. Yes, Rowena. And so the same thing on stage, you have to be creative there too. And so I'd like to walk through what that looks like for you. So up to this point, now you guys know what it is you'll be getting out of this session in terms of what kind of skills you'll grow as a result of this conversation. Now you know what improv is. It's all about making it up on the spot and creating an experience, a shared experience with the audience and with your fellow players. So for you, that would be the team. And for you, the audience would be your patients, their families, anyone else that you may interact with on a day to day that isn't a part of your team. So when I talk about my fellow improvisers, I'd love for you to be thinking of it in terms of your team. When I talk about being on stage, I'd love for you to be thinking about it in terms of the stage of your life, the scenes that you're in, and we'll just take it from there. So with improv, what's really important is first, I'd like to say one thing. A lot of people will tell you about the rules of improv without talking about the process. I'll share with you the rules here in just a moment. What I feel like is the most important piece for you to realize is how this applies to your life. And then we'll apply the rules to it just here in a moment. But for this, I'd like you to think about, okay, we have a show to do. This is how I process through every show. And also as a mindset coach, thinking about your life, this is a way I'd like you to channel your energy. So if you think about your workday as this is the show, I am on stage. I am the main character of my life. I am the main character of this experience. This is all from your point of view. So think about every day of your life as before the show. So before the show for me starts with the night before. Am I getting enough sleep? And I know this may be, something that you've all heard before, but really when you think about, for me, when I think about showing up for my fellow teammates and my fellow players, and when I think about really giving the audience an amazing show, I want to make sure that I show up right and that I'm prepared mentally, emotionally, that I am in a space where I can really serve the mission of the day. Because that's why I'm here. I didn't just sign up to show up on stage and just totally see what happens. Yes, thank you for sharing. Honestly, creativity makes work go easy and smooth. It does. Having that creative energy. And so for me, having creative energy, when you think about prepping before the show, being inspired, it's hard to show up inspired when you're exhausted. It's hard to show up inspired when you've rushed into work and you didn't have anything prepared. You didn't have your show outfit set out, the night before, whatever you got to do to perform and get your mindset right. Some of us, it takes more than other people. Some of us are a little more sensitive. And so being in environments that are a little more high pressure, high stress, other people's energies, we have to prepare for that. Not all of us do. Some of us can roll in. What do you need to prepare before the show so that you can really show up right. And that includes things like, again, what do you have to do to prepare the night before so that you can show up great the next day? Same thing that I do before I go out on stage. What gifts can you give yourself to have the energy to feel inspired, to have the energy to be creative, to put yourself really in that space of how do I want to show up? To me, I always want to show up creative. I always want to show up collaborative. And so those are the things I ask myself before the show. What do I need to do to get ready for that? So really just setting yourself up well before the show. Next, we go into warm-ups. I don't know about you, but I have routines that I like to go through before I get to a show. I specifically have some mindset that I like to work on because honestly, getting on stage, it can be, even though I've been doing this for a very long time, it can be a little intimidating. Uh, and for you, I'm assuming there are days, maybe there are certain people that you work with that can be a little more of, require a little more intentionality around the way you show up so that you can honor yourself and what you need, you know? So what kind of mindset shifts, what do I need to give myself in terms of gifts emotionally, you know, in my mind? What do I need to give for myself? So I have some affirmations that I like to use that really set me up for how do I want to show up on stage today? And again, so that I can serve the audience and that I can serve my fellow teammates. The next, you go into the show. This is the moment. So when you think about going into work, I would love for you to be thinking about it as this is the show for the day. I'm the main character. Every moment of this day can be intentional. And if you think about it that way, if you check in with yourself, it's going to change your day. So next I want to talk about the scenes of your day. When you go into, for example, you get in your car, that's a scene from a movie. Wouldn't you agree? That's a scene on a stage that you could see. How do I want to drive to work? Do I want it to be a chaotic drive where I have road rage and I'm stressed out because I slept in and, you know, all those things? What kind of gifts do I need to give myself so that when I do show up, and maybe you want to put on some music, how do I get myself in a mindset? How do I get myself connected to myself so that I'm feeling good when I walk in the door and step into those lights, you know? So for me, when I show up on stage, what does that look like? And so each scene of your life, I like to think of scenes in my life of thresholds, doors that you walk through. Every door you walk through is a new scene with new players, new energy. You can literally set a new intention for every single scene of your day, whether you're going from your car to the front door and you may see the same, how do I want to show up when I walk through the front door? Do I want to be friendly? You know, what's my mission today? You know, really play with it, get playful with the game of life and how you show up and how you want to interact and what do you want to be known for, you know? How can I show up and honor the players in the scene with me? And so when you think about it in terms of the scenes, think about it in that way. So that again, now that we're moving into your fellow players, how do I want to support them? In improv, again, we don't know what's going to happen on stage. We have no idea. None of this has been planned. And so it's ultimately huge that we all have an intention of serving one another. Yes, I know that at work, there might be some people you don't like very much or that frustrate you. Make that part of it. This is just, you know, think about The Office. Think about a show that you've seen. You love all the characters, even if some of them are a little grumpy, you know? So how can you show up and really serve other people in your life, even if it's a challenge? Because at the end of the day, your scene will be more successful if you are in us working together as a team makes the day go quicker. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so much more fun that way too. And if you look at it in that way, if you feel in that collaborative way, you're going to give a really good scene to the audience and to the people you're there to serve together. So taking the egos out of it. And, you know, even in improv, sometimes we can get worried and in our heads about, oh, am I doing a good job? Or is this enough? Or as soon as you get in your head, you drop right out of the present moment. And if you're not in the present moment and responding honestly and engaged and intentionally to what's happening on stage, it'll show. and it will show for your fellow improviser. They'll feel that there's a little bit of disconnection. Your communication can get a little wonky. As soon as you get into your head and out of your body and from being connected in the present moment, that's where things can kind of shift. And so if you're ever noticing moments of overwhelm in your day, ask yourself, how much am I spending time in my head? How much am I spending time fully being present? Breathe, take a breath. I'll do this on stage even. You can take a breath, you can take a breath and really connect. How can I connect? How can I be in service of the people who I'm in this scene with? My job on stage is to make everybody else look good. And if you have the energy of I'm going to make everybody else look good, they're going to make you look good too. And honestly, it makes you look good when you're in service. So I'm just wondering, and I'd love to hear from you in the chat, if you've ever noticed that before, how you show up. If you show up in service, it changes the game. If you drop the ego and trust, there will be moments where you are fired up and ready to respond. But then really checking intentionally, how do I want to show up in the scene? So again, paying attention to your energy, paying attention to your mindset, in service of what is it that I want to get out of this day? And what is it that I want to get out of each and every scene for this entire show that is the day? Your day is the show. Every scene you walk into, every door you cross through, totally new scene. And so how can you show up in that way? Your mindset for your day truly makes a huge impact. Yes, Shell, thank you so much for adding that. It really, truly does. And if you think about your day in terms of scenes, you will start to realize that before you walk into the next scene, I literally in my everyday life and every scene that I'm in on stage, I like to walk through that door. And before I walk through that door, I ask myself, how do I want to show up? Just do a little check-in with yourself. Take those moments for yourself. You deserve them. It will help you so much. You're allowed, go to the bathroom, take a few breaths, be in service of yourself. How can I be in service of myself so that I can show up for my team? And so I just want to touch in our last few minutes here on what are some of the rules of improv. Some of the rules of improv, you've probably heard these before, is the energy of yes and. Having a mindset of yes, not saying yes to everything just blindly, but having that energy of agreement, having that energy of, hey, I love your idea, and I'm going to add something to that idea, and we're going to add something else to that idea. So that when my partner shows up, I'm not denying and blocking all the things that they add, because really having that collaborative energy of, I want to show up, I want to say yes and accept what you have, and I want to add to it, that is going to just expand the possibilities of what every scene in your life can look like much faster than any kind of denial ever will. And so next, I'd love to hear from you guys too in the chat. Where do you think you could say yes more? Where do you think that you could have more agreement and be more open to creating those inspired solutions together rather than being ready to say no? So as you think through that, I want you to think about play. Where in your life can you introduce play? How can you make it a game? How can you make every day a little bit of a game, all in the places that it's professional to do so? And embrace that creativity. Everybody's creative. Everybody is an improviser. How can you embrace that creativity and that love? If you can't do that, or if you're feeling blocked by that denial or by saying no, you may not be able to reach those feelings of joy. You'd be surprised if you can let go of your control of what you think things should be as an improviser. Because on stage, you go and you may have an idea and your scene partner starts with something else. You have to be ready to let go of that to make true what you've created together. So how can you embrace creativity in that way to build inspired solutions? Next, I'd love to share about embracing mistakes. In improv, be more open to virtual ideas versus quickly shutting them down. Yes, yes. Making sure everyone feels welcomed and valued. Yes, because people will be more creative with you if they feel seen and safe with you. If you open it up to creative ideas, people they will love you for that. And you will see that you engage. And again, the more you're open to that, the more you'll create space for that, which is all you really want at the end of the day, and experiencing that joy. So embracing your mistakes as opportunities, huge. Don't look at things as, oh, well, this is a failure now. maybe this was supposed to happen. What is it revealing to me? How can I use this to make what we know now to be true a reality that now we're all in agreement on and we can do something with? Make bold choices. How can I really show up and just claim that main character energy in my life? How can I show up again, making bold choices in my day that serve my intention and how I want to show up? How can I make bold choices in honoring and serving the audience, the family members of your patients and your patients, and then of course your fellow improvisers? How can I listen better to understand and not to respond or react? How can I hear you? How can I see you? Whether it's, again, the audience, your patient, how can I really hear you? You know, sometimes we think we know what someone's going to say, and maybe we do, but they want to know that you hear them. And so how can I slow down? How can I not be in such a rush so that I can be present in this moment? When you have a good mindset, then you go to work, someone breaks you down. It takes a few, yeah, it does. And you can take those moments for yourself too, to regroup. You know, I'm not saying you won't have moments that are frustrating, because on stage we'll have some moments of confusion. Usually we circle back at the end and say, hey, what happened there? There was a miscommunication. I don't feel like I understood what you were trying to say. You know, we'll check in with each other every time after a show. What could we have done better? How could we have communicated more effectively? Was there something that I said that you didn't quite understand? How could I show up in a way that could help you understand me better next time? Or I hear you, I see what happened. You know, we'll do that at the end of the show too. And that's also how we include each other with compassion. It's not, hey, you were wrong and I was right. Communication's a two-way street. So how can we together, what happened here? You know, so we'll literally, after a show, we'll get together and we'll discuss that. So just in my last couple seconds here, I just want to remind you to, you know, at the end of the day, making each other look good will make you look good. You being present will really help with you embracing that creativity, getting out of your head and really into your body and experiencing this beautiful life you've created, and really showing up to serve in the way that you want to show up and serve, which is why you're doing this to begin with.